Right.
No.
Is the volume on so we can hear? Are we muted? Yes.
Okay.
That's muted. Are we muted? I don't know. Can you hear?
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome, and thank you for joining me this evening. I'm going to kind of keep my eye on the participants box here, but we'll try to move forward and be respectful of your time this evening. Really excited to have you all join us here. I guess I would ask all of you if you could just, I'll do it as best I can, but mute your mics as you come on. And I'm going to share my screen and we'll hopefully, as I mentioned in our chat box, cover a lot of ground, but I would invite you along the way as questions arise to enter them into the chat box addressed to me, and I'll either answer them in real time relevant to whatever it is I'm covering at that time, or we can get to them all at the end. I'm going to share my screen so I can share with you my slideshow. And as I mentioned, I think my goal this evening is to share with you a few spring highlights, then kind of talk and walk you through our closing month of school, and then talk a little bit about next September and what you can expect about what we're expecting when it comes to next September. And then we'll answer what questions come up in our chat window, and we'll close with a little humorous exercise that'll give you a sense of what it's like to be in one of our all school meetings each day, our Dove Bite Challenge. Before I get to business, I thought I would, something this came across my Twitter account the other day, and I found it relatively amusing, perhaps because Falmouth Academy didn't fit into any of these categories, but the topic was what non-Americans think about American schools. And these are just tweets that came across. Why do American schools have hall passes? Is walking in the halls really that serious? So confused. American schools actually have cafeterias, like a settled place to eat? Do American schools actually have a nurse, or is that just on TV? Do American schools really have those I like the word lil water fountains? I've never seen one in real life, but they seem pretty cool. And finally, do American schools actually make their students climb a rope in PE? And do American schools really have drama clubs that put on shows all the time? So I don't think we fit into very many of those categories, or perhaps we're not an American school. But in any case, spring highlights. It's been a really full spring, and as the weather has warmed and our collective community health has improved, we've been able to kind of enjoy what I guess I would file under kind of back to normal kinds of activities here at the school. We enjoyed, thanks to the student council, a rollicking spirit week complete with egg toss and a tug of war and artistic expression. Congratulations to the class of 2021 who took the Spirit Week this year. We enjoyed what I'm told by the students was one of our better iterations of Senior Teaching Day shortly thereafter. Not surprisingly, given the work that the seniors did on that front. We had a nice list of college matriculations for our class of 2021. Mariners will grace, among others, the campuses of Brandeis, Brown, University of Chicago, Elon, Kenyon, Miami, Mount Holyoke, Northeastern, Oberlin, Smith, Tufts, Wheaton, and the universities of Connecticut, Florida, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont, and St. Andrews in Scotland. So congratulations to all of those seniors. Among some of our other accolades, you probably read that we did send 13 to the state science fair, 7 of whom were recognized as having achieved recognition and actually were first place. 7 all-district musicians, 1 all-state, 11 awarded for visual arts in regional competitions. 3 of our students from our social justice club actually had the opportunity to speak at a New England conference to middle school students of color. And on our national German exam, 18 students earned recognition, including 2 who placed in the top, I guess, the 99th percentile. So lots of good things going on here. I had a lot of fun sitting in with the 9th grade who did a carbon footprint project. They actually broke into small groups, and produced a 20 to 30 page report to me and to our CFO and our director of facilities, measuring most of the time accurately our carbon footprint here at Falmouth Academy, which is a good step forward for us. One of the things I learned that I did not know was that our second Vineyard bus, which we are not currently using, actually was brought from Bridgeport, Bridgewater, for less than a 1 mile trip, and was making 8 miles a gallon back and forth. So we're beginning to focus on ways to reduce our carbon footprint. Spring athletics is in full swing. We have a varsity boys lacrosse team that's currently undefeated and is dreaming of an undefeated season. We have a girls team that I like to quote Hamilton, after 6 years of having sort of college level center midi types that kind of really dominated the ball and were terrific players. This is, I would describe this team as young, scrappy, and hungry, to borrow from our friend Lin-Manuel Miranda, and they've been terrific and a lot of fun to watch. And we have 40 plus students who are trying club tennis here for the first time, and we'll talk a little bit about the extent to which we may normalize that next year. Thank you so much for all of you that participated, volunteered, or supported our virtual spring auction, which was a terrific success. And just over on Saturday, I think, probably beyond our outdoor athletic events, probably the first time we invited families, parents back to campus, albeit in kind of a scheduled way, to come and visit our spring arts show. Those of you that have been here for a number of years recall that ordinarily we have our spring arts show followed by our spring concert. And I'll talk a little bit about our spring concert in a few minutes, but lots going on here at the school, obviously. As far as the rest of the spring is concerned, on Friday night, our after-school drama program are finally getting to debut their movie, which they wrote and filmed and starred in and staged, called Circle Dance. And that's an outdoor showing that they've all been invited to. And I'm told that they've got a real live red carpet and it's going to have some paparazzi and the whole thing. The following day, on May 22nd, those of you who's participated in our music program after school are invited to our spring concerts. I think this year, again, that would normally be evening in the Simon Center, but this year will be in the, we've broken it up into two. So we have a 1 o'clock concert and a 3 o'clock concert. And you should know a little bit already about which of those concerts and or both of those concerts you may be planning to attend. The talent show is kind of an inside baseball thing. The student council runs that, and we are currently in the market for talent, but or at least for talent that's willing to show itself after school on the 26th. The 28th is Declaration Day, and we are going to move forward with our traditional capture the flag game. The whole school breaks up into white or blue, and we've purchased some equipment, some flags, I think, that are going to make that more doable. And then we have our last day of senior classes on June 2nd, which will have an outdoor all-school meeting. And that evening at 6 o'clock, a virtual toast with parents and students and seniors and our senior slideshow. As far as the rest of the week, June 3rd through 8th, we do have classes and after-school activities as normal. Those of you that are veterans of the school know that's a little bit different. We used to sort of have folks come in, sit down for an hour and a half, take a test and go home. We are going to kind of assign those any evaluations or assessments during the school day. So students will be in school on the 3rd through the 8th from the ordinary time, 8:30 through the end of the day. On June 4th, we have our drama festival, which is an 8th grade event. We also have our senior banquet. I've gotten a few questions about whether there's going to be a prom this year. And while there's not going to be an official prom this year for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, thanks to Mr. Early, Ms. DeSanto, and a couple of terrific parent volunteers, we are in the process of preparing a really lovely senior banquet on the 4th of June in place of that event. June 8th, you'll look for an email from Mr. Stevens for our virtual athletics celebration. I think that's for the high school of varsity athletics. And we did something like that last year. And then things start to wrap to a close here. June 9th, there's an upper school math exam, as well as the last day of middle school classes. At the end of the math exam, upper schoolers are free to go. We will have buses running at 12:45. But we'll run a 10:30 shuttle for those upper schoolers who are not going to remain at school till 12:45. Middle schoolers will stay on and have a recognition day, which is, for those of you that are new here, kind of an FA version of end of the school academic awards or recognition. And that will be filmed and or live streamed, but unfortunately this year it will be not open to the public. Similarly, the following day, we have our graduation rehearsal for seniors, our last day of upper school classes, and our upper school recognition day. And that day, buses will leave at 12:45. And then we've got our graduation at 4 o'clock on June 12th. So a busy spring to be sure. And but an exciting spring, and I appreciate my colleagues looking for creative ways to find to celebrate the students, give them chances to celebrate what they've accomplished, and to provide some closure to what has been an unusual but certainly successful school year. So golly, so that's the end of the year. So what I want to talk to you a little bit right now about is and I don't see any questions in the chat right now, but I don't know that I can't see any of you right now, and I can't tell if you're nodding and smiling or whether you have questions about the end of the school year, but feel free to ask them. I wanted to turn my attention now to next year and talk to you a little bit about the course registration process and the academic schedule, followed by my best or our best forecast of the various health and safety protocols that may or may not be in place come September, and what the implications of all of this are on our co and extracurriculars, maybe reference some other returning school policies, and then a little bit on our communication calendar. So, right, So somebody asked a question about the drama festival, which is the seventh graders that are in small groups right now, working with Miss Santamoro and Dr. Parsons, preparing variations, I think, of myths and plays. Parents historically have been invited to that. I know that they are invited to Declamation Day, the 8th grade event. I have to check with Dr. Parsons about whether that's also going to be open for families with the drama festival. Good question. And then I'll hit you about on our communication calendar. So course registration. So that process opened today. For most of your students, it is a question of selecting electives. And today in all school meeting, Friday, Dr. Aaron Brink shared with your students the list of electives, the electives catalog, and that was also included and shared with you today, sent home on the constant contact that included a reminder of this event. So most of your kids will be choosing electives, and that platform, Dr. Aaron Brink today in class demonstrated how to sign up for electives and courses in general through their MyFA accounts. That platform will be open for the next 2 weeks. And I thought I would share, I don't know if I pulled it up or not. Just bear with me for just a moment as I find that. I thought I would share with you, although you got the catalog today. If you didn't get the catalog today, Dr. Aaron Brink was nice enough today to list all those electives in a list so that you could see them all in one place. So some of the electives that your kids will be choosing from, you'll see here, and I'll talk a little bit about middle school versus upper school with regard to elective selections, but here are the middle school electives that your students can choose from. And of course, we offer those that we get the signups for, but we currently have commitments from faculty for this range of electives. And then in the upper school, you'll see another long list of electives that your students can sign themselves up for. At the upper levels, there are a few more choices as well, but you'll get a sense of kind of, so this kind of answers one of the $64 million questions, which is, are there going to be electives this year, next year? And clearly, obviously, there are. Dr. Aaron Brink, is there anything else I need to cover with regard to registration from your perspective?
No, I think that's all very good what you summed up there. If anybody has any questions, more than happy to answer them.
And the question was, do we access the catalog on MyFA? And as I said, it was sent out today in the constant contact as a live link as the second item in the email. I don't know, the kids can access it. Go ahead,
yes,
Dr. Aaron Brink.
Students have it on the all student page, and I believe it was supposed to go onto the parent page as well. If it's not there yet, I'll make sure it is there tomorrow.
Great. And let's see. And then with regard to, I'm going back now to my slideshow, and I'm one slide ahead of myself. Right. With regard to the academic schedule, again, this is kind of interesting because a fair number of you that are on the call are new and probably think of the schedule we've been following this year as kind of the normal schedule. And as I mentioned in a previous coffee, we've kind of taken the schedule from last year, worked it through a feedback process from students and faculty, used some of what we did last year and some of what we learned this year, and have a schedule that probably resembles more of what we had last year, but incorporates some of the features from this year. So I thought I would just sort of, again, this is the second time I've done this, so apologies for those of you that are hearing this for the second time. I thought I would show you a little bit about what that schedule might look like. But before I do, I'll just use my slide here to highlight some of its features. The first is that it does incorporate a rotating schedule. So it will rotate the way this year's rotated, or similar to the way this year's rotated, and in a way in the previous schedule did not. compared to last year, what I call the singles will be slightly longer, and there will be a double period, a 65-minute block. Every discipline will have a 65-minute block to do kind of all the interesting things you can do in a longer period that you may not be able to do in a shorter period. We are splitting the electives, so in order to provide more choice and a greater possibility that students are going to kind of get into the elective they've requested, we've taken the middle school and the upper school electives and in most cases separated them so that kids have an opportunity to get what they need or want. We've modestly increased the time that advanced arts can meet. So ordinarily in the previous schedule, they might meet in a cycle, a 5-day cycle, 70 minutes. Now in a 6-day cycle, those advanced classes will get to meet 130 or 140 minutes, which is what some of those advanced artists have been asking for. We also have taken, for those of you that have had seniors here before, there was something called the major effort, which was something that kids could do as an alternative to the science fair in senior year. And it was taught kind of delivered through the physics program. And that kind of never made sense to us. We thought it was kind of removing some really important contact time from a legitimate math-based high school physics course. But also we probably were not realizing the potential of that program. So it does provide for a senior thesis. And then finally, it has an after school kind of office hours period that for those, often sort of teachers, students who wanted to get extra help weren't ordinarily able to do so unless their teacher happened to have the same free block as them. So I'll show it to you briefly, and it won't make a lot of sense. You should, but let me see, why am I not being able to escape from this? There we go. But there'll be a version. It'll go home in the June mailing along with an FAQ sheet. But can Dr. Ehrenbrink give me a thumbs up if you can see this?
Not yet.
Okay. Stop share. Share screen. How about now?
It's yes.
What are you seeing? You seeing the schedule?
I see the schedule.
Great.
The
Good.
sheet.
So you'll get a sense here. This is the generic version. It's kind of the model here, and you'll get a sense that every day, so A block meets 45, 45, 45, 45. So in 6 days, it meets 4 45-minute blocks. And then it also meets a 65-minute block. In this case, the upper school might be in their A block, while the middle school is in their 65-minute elective block. And then after school meeting, the same thing happens, but it's reversed. And you'll see at the end of the day, at 2:40 to 3:15, 3:10, teachers and students are here and can use this time to meet in any number of different capacities, clubs, organizations, extra help, meet with your advisor, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have sports here. So it's a 6-day schedule. That means it's not necessarily pegged to the day. It will rotate through the entire school year. So here's a 7th grade. Here's what a 7th grade schedule might look like. You'll see that there's English, there's German, there's humanities, marine science, math, and then this student happened to have decided to take 6 electives during his 6 or her 6 blocks. Phys ed being a required, science fair being a required. She took beekeeping, intro to photo, and video production as well. Middle schoolers are required to take fill at least 5 of these 6 blocks. So in this case, this person has chosen to fill 6 of those 6 blocks. This wouldn't necessarily be a sign, but I thought I would show you that a student could use his or her study hall to go to the research center and meet with Ms. Reuter or Mr. Miskell or Ms. Frau Freeland. And then over here, I just thought I would show you that this kid might be getting extra help in science after school, or having a club meeting, or meeting with their advisor, or whatever it happens to be, or meeting with a math teacher for some extra help. And this is kind of a senior over here. And you'll see that this person's taking English, Calc, Physics, World Cultures, and French 5. And in this case, this person happens to be in the Advanced Instrumental Ensemble. And you'll notice that instead of meeting once, that will meet twice. So this person has decided to take Advanced Instrumental Ensemble, meet twice. She's in the student council. She's taken ceramics. This is the senior thesis class, and a senior thesis is kind of a year-long, a mentored deep dive into an area that's super passionate, kind of a science fair, but not necessarily about science. This person's chosen to do a study hall. The upper schoolers' requirements in terms of carrying electives are slightly more modest. So seniors, I believe, only need to fill 3 of these blocks, and I believe other students in the upper school need to fill 4 of those blocks. Am I right, Dr. Aaron Brink? Great. And you'll see that this student might have had extra help here. Maybe there's a meeting about the French exchange here. Maybe meet the advisor here, head out to lacrosse practice a little early, or get an extra help here. So that kind of gives you a sense of where the schedule is heading. I always say that the reason I haven't kind of been saying this is how it's going to be and isn't this exciting is because we haven't scheduled it yet. And I'm getting a smile from Dr. Ehrenbrink because that's her job. And we don't know if it's going to, we're ready if a few things conflict, but whenever you kind of launch into a new schedule for the first time, you're bound to run into some kinks. That's the notion on that front. So that's kind of what you can expect by way of schedule. Health and safety. So vaccinations, our faculty is currently, our employee base is currently 100% vaccinated. They have voluntarily informed us that that is the case. Our 16 to 18-year-olds are well on the way, and we already have some 12 to 15-year-olds who are vaccinated. I'm kind of waiting for the state. The state may tell us, COVID-19 vaccinations is among the vaccinations that the state is requiring. They haven't done that yet, I suppose, because it's an emergency authorization and they really haven't, they've just rolled out to 12 to 15-year-olds, et cetera. We don't at this juncture anticipate requiring vaccination. I'm not sure that's a tracking game we want to get into, but there may be things, for example, international travel or overnight trips that will require vaccination. And there is an outside, there is, I don't say more than not even an outside possibility. There's a possibility that the state will just say, everybody's doing this. So I guess my message would be, I would strongly encourage, and a quick straw poll of the students in my study halls would indicate that it's not going to be a challenge, but I would strongly encourage students to be vaccinated as soon as possible. It's pretty easy these days, but obviously everybody's got a different level of comfort and everybody's schedules are different. Talked to my folks today, and my sense is that particularly if we are on the very, very high side of vaccinations, which we anticipate we will be, and there will be a question in your medical forms asking you to update us on your status on that front. My sense is that I'd be surprised if we were mandatory masks and if we were being required to be any more than 3 feet distant. I don't know that for sure, but my sense is the way it's heading at this juncture, and who knows, I'll update you periodically over the summer. School's going to look a lot more like school this year. We're hopeful and relatively optimistic, perhaps more optimistic than we were a month and a half ago, that we'll be back to kind of no back rows, learning in the round, group projects, et cetera, some of the teaching that really we take pride in. But that's going to be one of those ones that I'm going to be updating to you periodically over the summer. I don't anticipate that you'll have to fill out my MedBot. That will make all of you, I think, probably pretty happy, although you guys have been so good about that. Campus visitors will be permitted, and as I mentioned in our FAQ sheet, we are in the process of returning our space, our theater, our Morris Hall, our art rooms, our music room back to their original purposes. Perhaps the 2 things that make me a little nervous, that I'm ready to say, yeah, no problem, don't worry about it. All school meetings in Morris Hall and lunch. we just gonna have to wait and see with that. We're committed to an in-person all-school meeting, but that may have to be kind of outdoors and then in the gymnasium. Hope, again, the higher percentage of our community that's vaccinated, the more likely is that we can run our all-school meeting as we always do. So those are kind of where I was thinking, what I think I'd share with you by way of health and safety. Related to that, of course, are our co and extracurricular programs. We anticipate offering the full range of athletics. As I said, our after-school activities will largely return to the academic day as electives, though we will have our drama program up and running in the afternoons. I'm going to talk a little bit about an athletic participation requirement in a few minutes, but we are currently running spring sports really to some degree, although there are masks. Other than that, it feels pretty normal. Field and class trips. We're hopeful and optimistic that field trips, as they are planned, will go off without a hitch. I think from the class trip perspective, again, this may be more relevant to those of you with students who are rising 9th through 12th graders, but I think our plan is to kind of double up in some way. So the 11th graders lost their Monadnock trip, and the 9th graders lost their farm school trip, which are two trips that kids really like. And as we think about a more unified, theme-based trip program the following year, I think next year, we think we're going to run 2 separate trips to the farm school if they will have us for 9th and 10th grade, and possibly 2 separate trips to Sergeant Camp and Monadnock for 11th and 12th grade for those students that missed those this year. Let's see. So optimistic about that, but the venues really are calling the shots on that, which is we're working them the best we can, but they're really kind of, as you might imagine, kind of in a wait and see mode. I think we're getting a pretty good commitment from Sergeant School, and we're still working on the farm school right now. Which brings me to internships and mentorships. Those of you, again, that are relatively new to the school are probably aware in passing that anywhere between 5 and 15 of our students may be placed in kind of internships down in the Science Woods Hole area, and maybe a higher number than that have kind of mentorships. Oh gosh, thank you. I actually meant 8th and 9th, rising 9th and 10th, right, on the Monadnock. So let's see. Currently, the science institutions are not giving us the warm fuzzies on whether we're going to be able to have our students in labs down in Woods Hole. They are just kind of getting their own employees and students back, and who knows, things may accelerate. But at this juncture, that's so far as a no. So we'll keep you posted on that. Exchanges and travel. So we lost 2 years of the German exchange and 1 year of the French exchange, as well as a trip to Costa Rica. So I thought I'd give you an update on those. The Costa Rica trip cannot go this June, but it is going to go next June. And we are allowing seniors, even though it's after graduation, so the class of 2022, who happen to have deposits and were planning to go on the Costa Rica trip, the opportunity to go on the Costa Rica trip. I think the French exchange right now, we're getting somewhere between a yellow and green light on the French exchange right now, and anticipate that the French exchange will be a go for next year, but the German exchange will not be a go for next year. And that's unfortunate, but obviously it takes 2 to tango, so to speak. And I think probably there continue to be conversations about alternatives to those trips, but that's to the best of my knowledge where we're at on that. And again, I'm looking at Dr. Ehrenbrink, who's nodding and would tell me if I was saying something incorrect. She's good at that. So I would say we're going to wait and see how the French exchange unfolds before committing to some kind of alternative to the kids that unfortunately have not had travel study opportunities because of COVID in the last couple of years. Freedom of movement. Gosh, that sounds like such a technical term, freedom of movement. Oh, I just want to get somebody muted here by, okay, I think we're okay. Well, let me just see. If you were unmuted, that would be great if you'd mute. Thank you. Freedom of movement. It sounds like I don't know. It sounds like such an official term, but as you know, for much of the year, we've been kind of we've been keeping the kids, I don't want to say locked down, but study halls in the afternoon and supervision on transitions and no locker spaces, et cetera, et cetera. Kids have been kind of under our watchful eye for the year. We expect kind of quote unquote freedom of movement. The kids are going to be able to kind of move freely around campus when they are not in a commitment. That may be painfully obvious right now, but that's been something kids have really missed. Couple of questions came in. What grades participate in Costa Rica trip? I think that's 9 through 12, but I'll check with Carol DeFalco. And yes, the 7th grade and 8th grade students do have kind of field trips and class trips. I think that Mr. Early right now, the 7th grade has historically done a kind of a watershed field trip. They may have done that, but virtually this year. And the 8th grade has historically gone to Monadnock, but I think next year we're talking about a nature's classroom, something a little bit more local. The return of policies. Gosh, will freedom of movement include lockers? We think so. The things would have to be kind of 100% back to normal for us to be able to use the locker areas, because I think they're shared lockers. They're all in there all at the same time. And I think basically we'll take our cues from the state and the CDC on that front, and our own vaccination numbers, but we would really like to get back to lockers. And I think if I were a betting man, I would say that we would be back to our lockers. Dress code will be back in all its glory. So something to anticipate. We're pretty excited about having to reestablish that norm. That's going to be a lot of fun. And you can expect a revised and more stringent policy as it relates to student phone use during the school day. Some variation of between 8:15 and 2:45. We're not going to see your phone except in the locker area when you have a break. And Zooming, pretty limited. We recognize that we have some equipment that can be useful here. And I mentioned in our FAQ my intent to provide you with at some juncture, probably in the June mailing, with a fleshed out policy on when it's appropriate to Zoom and not, but it will be pretty limited. It will be primarily students on long-term medical leave, boat and or bus cancellations, state mandated quarantine, and possibly when the head of school calls a remote learning day, which is code for how do I feel about whether we have a snow day or not, or that sort of thing. But we will use Zooming for those purposes. But we're trying to move really away from that for reasons that I've explained in other mailings. Participation requirement. I don't know necessarily what people were expecting this year. There was a participation requirement into after-school activities, and essentially there will be one again, which is 7th and 8th grade students will be expected to be in 2 seasons of after-school activities, mostly sports, and 9th grade will be expected to be in 1. I'm working on an alternative in the winter. We are working on an alternative in the winter to basketball. Right now we have soccer or cross country, lacrosse or tennis, basketball, and we're kind of in conversations with the curling club and with hiking and with other kind of winter challenge type activities. For those of you that may not gravitate towards sports with balls. And of course, you can always be a team manager or be in the school play or be in the stage crew. Additionally, and this isn't relevant to you, we're going to have all new students in the fall participate. So we're really kind of trying to get folks to get connected to the school via our after school activities. Of course, any good policy always has a couple of exceptions, and they may be participating in an after school activity, or perhaps you are deeply involved in something that we don't offer, in which case just a application to the Dean of Students would be in order. Let's see, where am I? Communication calendar. Report cards, I think you can expect, Dr. Aaron Brink, the Friday after graduation or thereabouts. What do we think about that?
Yes, if everything goes well and I get all the grades by the 16th, then you will have them on that Friday, yes.
A pretty massive mail that comes in June electronically, which will have a letter from me and all the other things you need to know about how to get ready for the following school year. That usually comes around the 25th of June or so. We are going to host a summer garden party for new parents, and we are, for all intents and purposes, counting those of you that were new last year also as new parents. So a big old summer garden party scheduled for August 10th. Look for more information about that. I believe the admissions office is also in the process of planning movie nights for the incoming 7th, 8th, and 9th grades to, again, build student community and integrate new students in August. So we really are in this whole process of building or rebuilding an entire new student community, parent community, community in general. I mean, I see someone's chin now and I just go, oh gosh, I don't know if I've ever seen your chin before. So, so look for information about that. And then you get an August mailing as well with lots of information. And then next year, and I'm saying this out loud now, so you can hold me to it. I do plan on holding these every month, virtual coffees to keep the lines of communication open. So I think that's all I have officially planned to present to you. And I guess I would, if there's something I haven't covered, or you have questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so. I've been following the chat, but now is the time. And of course, you can always reach out to any of us here at school. Will the 7th grade students have an orientation day, and when is that? Yes, so that will be Thursday. So we will have varsity athletics will start somewhere on the August 23rd or so, preseason, maybe a little earlier. But then we have the Thursday before Labor Day. I want to say it's September 1st this year, maybe the 2nd. That's the 7th grade, the new incoming 7th grade orientation. And then you probably got my message that unlike previous years when we ordinarily start on the Tuesday after Labor Day, we're starting on the Wednesday after Labor Day. A group of students came to me with quite a compelling case to suggest that Rosh Hashanah was a very important holiday for many of our students, and that so is the first day of school, and that first day of school is really about unity, and we shouldn't be making students choose in this particular case. So we are Wednesday after Labor Day, our opening day. I thought I would close with my Dove Bite Challenge. Okay, so I'm going to give you a sampling. This is about 5 different questions. Every day at all school meeting, I pose these to our kids, and the student who gets it correct, I will go find and offer them a Dove Bite. Here's an example, the country in which the battle took place. You're welcome to enter anything into the chat if you'd like. I will send you a Dove Bite, but this one's a little longer. The Battle of Thermopylae, Troy, Waterloo, and Sevastopol. Do you have the answer? Yes, Greece, Turkey, Belgium, Ukraine. Sometimes they're visual. Who painted the painting and this is for Dr. Aaron Brink, in the public domain. And of course, Leonardo, Dali, and Van Gogh. We have our, yes, this is English trivia, right? Which country possesses the largest population of English speakers in the world? Allen Ginsberg, Sound and the Fury. I know you're answering this question in your head. There are your answers. And then sometimes they're silly. Anybody want to enter in the chat the answer to this one? Finish that 80s song. It is indeed Cyndi Lauper. The line, my father says, "What you going to do with your life?" There it is, Chris McGuire. And then sometimes we'll do the spelling bee. You have to use every letter. Anybody got a word that uses every one of these letters? This is around, when you have 225 students getting this, it happens pretty fast, actually. Yes, Nancy Thrasher, gratify. Very good. And who invented the elevator? Looking at the chat, looking at the chat. Yeah, students got this. Or maybe they got help from the adults. It is Otis. I did not prepare the co-chair of the Parents Association, but that was also Nancy Thrasher. All right, here's a true. Guess the band by the singer, 60s and 70s. Absolutely, Chris. The Beach Boys is Brian Wilson. How about John Fogerty, someone? I'm starting to get too old for my parent body. It is Creedence Clearwater Revival. There you go. Lenovation iPad, nailed it, whoever that is. And who said that? Who said that? Anybody? Anybody? Says the person from Ferris Bueller. Who said that? Well, the kids eventually did get Friedrich Nietzsche, but that was quite a while after many of them guessed Kelly Clarkson. Whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Folks, thank you for joining us this evening. And obviously, we're here for you if you have any questions. And there are all sorts of things you can do to help us. I've listed a few of them here. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Like, comment, share our posts. Review us on Niche, Google our great schools. Refer friends to our admissions open house. And there is one this Thursday at 4 o'clock. And will the art show be posted somewhere? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think that we are doing that. But I expect we can probably take a few photos to the person that asked that. Thank you all. Thank you so much for sending as I say, we know you have many airlines. There are so many airlines you can fly on. We appreciate you flying with ours. Have a great evening. Good night.